I still remember that cold evening like it was yesterday. The rain had been falling for hours, not heavy, but steady, the kind that makes everything look washed out and lonely. I was driving home from a late shift, the kind of day where the silence in the car feels heavier than the rain outside. My daughter Lily had been at my sister's house that night. She was 6, full of questions and mischief, my reason for waking up every morning. Being a single dad hadn't been easy. After my wife left, I promised myself I'd never let Lily feel the emptiness I carried. The wipers moved rhythmically, clearing just enough of the fogged windshield for me to see the road ahead. And that's when I saw her. A little girl, maybe 7 or 8, standing by the side of the road, soaked to the bone. No shoes, no coat, just a pink dress clinging to her small frame. I slowed down immediately, my heart pounding. At first, I thought I was imagining it. The fog, the rain, maybe a trick of the headlights. But when I rolled down the window, she turned her head toward me. Her eyes, I'll never forget them. Wide, terrified, but strangely empty. Like she was looking through me, not at me. I pulled over, got out of the car, and approached slowly. "Hey, sweetheart, are you okay?" I asked, trying not to sound scared myself. She didn't answer. She just stared. Her lips were trembling, and she held something tightly in her hand. A small silver bracelet. I crouched down. "My name's Ethan," I said gently. "Are you lost? Do you know where your parents are?" Nothing. Just silence and the sound of rain hitting the pavement. After a few moments, I took off my jacket and wrapped it around her. She flinched at first, then slowly relaxed. "Let's get you somewhere warm, okay?" She didn't resist when I picked her up. She was cold, ice cold, but she didn't cry, didn't say a word. I drove her straight to the police station. They asked me questions, took my statement, tried to get her to speak, but she wouldn't. She just sat there, clutching that bracelet like it was the only thing keeping her in this world. They couldn't find any ID, no missing child report that matched her description, nothing. So they called in child services. I stayed longer than I needed to. Something about her wouldn't let me leave. When they said she'd be taken to a foster care center until they could locate her family, I found myself saying, "Can I check on her tomorrow?" The officer gave me a strange look but nodded. "Sure, if you want to." That night I barely slept. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that little face. The emptiness in her eyes, the way her fingers clutched that bracelet. Something about it felt familiar. The next morning I went back to the foster center. She was sitting alone in a small playroom, staring out the window again. The rain hadn't stopped. The caretaker said she still hadn't spoken a word. No name, no address, nothing. But when she saw me walk in, something changed. She blinked. Once, twice, then stood up and slowly walked over. And for the first time she spoke. "Are you my dad?" The words hit me so hard I couldn't breathe for a second. I knelt down again, my voice trembling. "No, sweetheart. My name's Ethan. I found you last night." She looked confused, eyes filling with tears. Then she whispered, "Mommy said he'd come." "Who, honey? Who would come?" She didn't answer. She just reached out and handed me the bracelet. It had a small engraving on the inside. When I turned it over, my heart stopped. It read, "For Emma, with all my love, E." My name, the same letter, and Emma. That was my ex-wife's name. The woman who'd walked out of my life 7 years ago. I stared at the bracelet in disbelief. My pulse started racing. Could it be a coincidence? Maybe someone else with the same initials? But deep down, something in my gut whispered otherwise. I showed the caretaker. "Do you know where she was found?" "Near Pine Hollow Road," she said, "close to the old gas station." That was less than 10 miles from where Emma used to live after she left me. I didn't tell the police what I suspected. Not yet. I needed to know the truth myself. That evening, I drove back to the spot where I'd found the girl. The rain had finally stopped, but the air still smelled of wet asphalt and pine. I walked along the ditch looking for anything. Footprints, a bag, a sign of where she'd come from. About 100 yards down, I saw something shiny under a bush. A woman's purse, torn, muddy, and soaked through. Inside was an old photograph. Emma, smiling, holding a baby in her arms. On the back, a note in her handwriting. Her name is Grace. My knees went weak. That was the name we had chosen for our unborn daughter. The one she never told me she'd lost. Only, what if she hadn't? I drove home in silence that night. Not the kind of silence that calms you, but the kind that presses against your chest like a stone. I kept looking at the photograph over and over, tracing the outline of Emma's smile with my thumb. She looked happy, truly happy, a look I hadn't seen on her face in years before she left. I remembered the night she walked out. She'd said she couldn't do it anymore, that she felt trapped, broken, unseen. I begged her to stay, told her we could fix it, but she just cried, said something I didn't understand back then. You deserve peace, Ethan, and I need to find mine. And just like that, she was gone. No phone calls, no letters, nothing. Now, 7 years later, a little girl with her eyes was sitting in a foster home, and the universe was asking me if I was ready to face the truth I'd buried. The next morning, I called the police station again. They said they were still investigating, but no one had come forward to claim the girl. I asked if I could see her again, and after some hesitation, they agreed. When I walked into the room, she looked up immediately. That same quiet gaze, like she'd been waiting for me. Her small fingers still played with the edge of my jacket from yesterday. Hi, Grace, I said softly, testing the name. She blinked, then whispered, You know my name. Yes, I nodded. I think I might know your mom, too. She looked down at her hands, the words coming out like tiny cracks in a wall. Mommy said she made a mistake, that she had to go away for a while. My throat tightened. Do you know where she is now? Grace shook her head. She told me if I ever got lost to find the man with kind eyes. She said he'd take care of me. Her voice broke on the last words. I felt tears burning behind my eyes. Because Emma used to say that about me. I called every hospital and clinic within 50 miles that night. Nothing. No Emma, no woman matching her description, but I couldn't stop searching. Finally, 2 days later, I got a call. A nurse from a small rural hospital said a woman had been admitted the week before after a car accident. No ID, unconscious, listed as Jane Doe. The location? Just a few miles from where I found Grace. My heart pounded so hard I could barely drive straight. When I arrived, the nurse led me to a quiet room at the end of the hall. The lights were dim, the faint beeping of monitors the only sound. And then I saw her, Emma. Her hair was shorter, streaked with gray, but it was her. Even after all those years, I would have known her face anywhere. She looked fragile, tubes in her arm, a bandage across her forehead, but she was breathing. I stood there frozen, memories flooding back. The laughter, the arguments, the nights we promised forever. A doctor came in quietly. You know her? Yes, I said, my voice shaking. She's my wife. He nodded. She was found near Pine Hollow Road. It seems she was trying to protect a child in the crash. The little girl was unharmed, but the woman suffered head trauma. She's stable now, but she hasn't regained full consciousness. I could barely breathe. The girl, Grace, she's her daughter, isn't she? The doctor hesitated. That's what we believe, yes. I sat by Emma's bedside for hours. I wanted to be angry, for leaving, for hiding Grace from me, for making me believe she was gone forever. But all I felt was sorrow and love. I took her hand and whispered, You found your peace, didn't you? But you forgot I was still holding the pieces you left behind. Her eyelids twitched, a faint movement, but real. I called the nurse. She said sometimes familiar voices help patients come back. So I kept talking. I told her about Lily, about how she was growing up so fast, how I never stopped looking for closure, even when I said I had moved on. And then I told her about Grace. She's safe, I whispered. She's strong, Emma. Just like you. A single tear rolled down her cheek. That's when I knew. She could hear me. Over the next few days, I brought Grace to the hospital. She was shy at first, hiding behind me, clutching the same bracelet. But when she saw Emma, she froze. Mommy, she whispered, voice trembling. Emma didn't move, but a small smile tugged at the corner of her lips. Grace climbed onto the bed, her tiny hand resting against Emma's. I turned away, tears burning down my face. For the first time in years, we were all in the same room, broken, but together. Weeks passed. Emma's condition slowly improved. One morning, I walked into the room and saw her eyes open. For a long moment, we just looked at each other, both unsure if we were dreaming. Then she whispered my name. Ethan. Her voice was weak, but it was her. I sat down, gripping her hand. You're awake. She nodded slowly, tears forming. I didn't think I'd ever see you again. I wanted to ask 1,000 questions, but the first words out of my mouth were the only ones that mattered. Why, Emma? Why didn't you tell me about Grace? Her lips trembled. I was scared, she said. After I left, I found out I was pregnant. I thought you'd hate me for leaving you like that. I wanted to come back, but every time I tried, I convinced myself you were better off. I shook my head. Better off? Emma, I spent years wondering if you were alive. She reached for my hand, weak but steady. I know. I'm sorry. I just didn't want you to see the version of me that couldn't hold it together anymore. Grace had fallen asleep on the couch beside us, her little hand still clutching that bracelet. Emma followed my gaze and smiled softly. She kept it. I told her it would lead her home. I couldn't hold back the tears anymore. Emma, I said quietly, you already brought her home. You both did. Over the following months, things slowly fell into place. Emma recovered enough to come home. The courts verified Grace's identity and her relation to both of us. The first night, all four of us, me, Emma, Grace, and Lily, sat at the dinner table. It didn't feel like the past had come back. It felt like the future had finally arrived. There were still scars, memories that hurt to touch, but they were ours, and that made them bearable. Sometimes when I see Grace playing with Lily in the yard, I think back to that rainy road, how close I was to driving past, how a single moment can change an entire life. And when I tuck them in at night, I whisper the same thing to both of them. Words Emma once said before she left. You deserve peace. You deserve to find it and keep it. This time I finally understood what she meant, because peace isn't about forgetting what broke you. It's about finding who stayed when everything else fell apart. If this story touched your heart, subscribe to Tale Story House for more psychological and emotional stories that heal souls. Drop a heart if you believe that sometimes the people meant for us find their way back, even after the rain.